Like that kind of music to be playing from this playlist. Actually, not bad. Ooh, it's a remix. Interesting. Okay, I think we're gonna start with the stabilizers. I'm gonna try some Staebies today. First time I'm gonna be using those in anything of my boards. Only used Dorox and TX step so far. But the latest drop of Staebies I managed to snag some. Actually hoping that they are really nice. I'm just gonna use Crytox today, so nothing special with in terms of modifications. So I hope it's gonna work great. Since we're gonna use a split backspace today, I just need 3 stabilizers total. So only enter, left shift, and 7 use spacebar. I think I should also look if they are balanced. They probably are. Get the glass. Let's see if those wires are even balanced. Yep, spacebar is already fine. The wire. To you as well. This one. They basically come as straight as you would want them to be right out of the box. Let's to the side again. Durogs tend to not be as straight, and I felt like even some of my TX steps weren't that straight. Bit annoying because bending wires is always a bit of a pain. Shift, enter. It's sad if you only need like 3 stabilizers and you have like a full kit. Like you're wasting it, but you can always use the other leftovers. Many of my other stabilizers on other boards are being a pain. It's not that wasteful. Okay. Bruce. Hold on. Go to the side. I don't even know how much I want to loop those. I'm probably just gonna do stem and wire little code. I just want to see how they do with very little loop. I don't want to overdo it. Let's see how that goes. I don't something, so I don't mess up my mouse pad. Let's see. Are those stems smaller? Oh, they actually fit in. There's one. Like a stem of a stabilizer. We're just gonna loop the sides of it lightly, and I will avoid doing the houses just to avoid loop going everywhere. Basically just like this. That's a light shimmer. Nothing too crazy. I hate when stabilizers get too messy. Okay. Line those two holds up with the hole in the front. Hit this 6 times. I don't think this stream's gonna last too long today. This the bit is like I don't have to do any soldering today. I already prepared the millmax sockets on the PCB. So assuming I didn't break anything there, since I don't think I tested it afterwards, this shouldn't be too bad. Not a whole lot of steps to do. Hopefully also not a whole lot of steps tuning. Assuming those Staebies are as good as people say they are. I definitely tried and no sort of epsilon mod, poly mod anyway wouldn't fit since that's way too much. But even the epsilon mod or anything similar, no matter how thin tape, definitely did not fit into those. I also tried the Works shrink tube on the wire, but even for that they are too tight. It always caught on the housing, so that also did not really work. Like they still functioned somewhat, but got caught so much on the housing that it was super sluggish and sometimes you got stuck. It was not great. Definitely no stabilizer you can really do much with it. Maybe you can try and do a Plumbers mod. Something similar with like only 1 or 2 layers of the wire. I feel like at that point just stretching it. Okay. Now the wires. I don't know how much I want to put on them. I feel like less is more in this case right now. Just want a nice white coating. If it's not enough, I can always add more. But removing is always super annoying. Recently I tried to salvage some of my old stabilizers. And it's so annoying. I feel like this. It's very little. Let's see how I do with about that much. I think my last 2 rocks I also used similar amounts. My latest rocks I used similar. But latest rocks were also epsilon modded, so And some of them were also not quite perfect immediately. Just gonna say. Always hard for me and dark wires like this to really see how much is on there. I always felt like the white wires or silver wires showed a lot better. Stem it out of the housing. A bit in. It's feels like the stems on the Staebies are a lot easier. Okay, they're a lot easier to just go out of the housing at the bottom than get caught. Obviously, while installed, irrelevant. But when you're building them, just a tiny bit more. Yeah. Amount. Definitely going with a light loot drop today and seeing how that feels on those. My first time with the Staebies, so. Don't want to overdo it. If not, I feel like we have enough time today to just play around with it a bit. Okay. That looks also good. It's like if you take on the other side, it's a lot. Cool. Just a big space left. Thinking if I should use foams for the wires, but I feel like the tolerances are big, good enough that I don't really foam for the wires. I think they have a lot of space too. Yeah. But we can test that as well. Oh, it feels like the spacebar is the easiest to lube up. Need to get my keycaps to test the stabilizers in well, but to put those out. Going with some GMK Pono today, I think. Was already on the board before. The pings don't really line up perfectly, but I think it still looks good on the board. So for the stabilizers, yeah, Torx. It's really hard to see the washers. We have one washer. Where can I see them better? Just on the darker spots. Two. Put those as well. Good. We need from the stabilizer kit. And I like the packaging, to be honest. Pretty compact, not like the others. Usually in bigger boxes or just a normal plastic bag. They can get bent. Yeah, it took forever to clean this PCB. Since I had this build and soldered for over 4 years. I think it built it in 2019. You know, it's nice and clean again. I put some stabilizer pads down because lately I've been enjoying that a lot. And on the back, every switch has millmax soldered onto it. So quite a way to do. It was not that difficult. You just have to be careful with how much solder you put on there, since they are pretty small, the new ones. So you don't overdo it. It was also a pain to clean this PCB since the old solder stuff left some residue behind. And I did not have isopropyl alcohol here anymore. But I still managed to get most of it off. PCB in general just looks very pretty. We forgot it. I really want to screw them down a lot, so I don't think I need the actual screwdriver. I feel like hand tied with those very fine threads is more than enough torque already. Cool thing is, I think Staebies are the only stabilizers that I've used so far where the screws are really nicely magnetized. And Dorox are also magnetized, but it felt always a bit. And then again, EX steps, but the screws are all there just. Which I also learned to appreciate, to be honest. I never had to take them off. So I don't know how they retain how tight they are into the PCB. You have to remove them a couple times. But I doubt it's a big issue. Yeah. Shift next. I think I'm just gonna test with the switches that were already on there before. Normal port switch. As I feel like testing with long ports and stems, so makes the how do I say, bit of a cheat code at times. Stabilizers can hide a bit. Which is why a lot of people do it, me included. The stabilizer is not perfect, throw some long pole in there. And it's kinda sort of fixing itself. I might do it for the spacebar. I have some black cherry pies laying around that I could use. I don't know why before I built this keyboard with a 6U spacebar. 7U spacebars are... I don't know, I enjoy it a lot more. Look, sound, everything. Use one key though. Bottom row. So I guess people that enjoy right alt, right control for some reason might don't want to go 7U on 65%. At least not one with a blocker. Without the blocker, I think everything's fine. Just gonna look a bit weak for 1U then. Right. This away. Let me quickly get gaps to the side so I can test the stabilizers. For GMK. 7U, I think, on the other tray. Put it to this. Let's use the Novelty 6 that I had in there before. They didn't sound that bad in there. I just feel like at this point they are a bit too heavy for me to press. by normal typing. It's a bit exhausting after a while. But it's still a really nice switch, to be honest. I still like them. I might enjoy them more with a spring swap at some point. But spring swaps are so annoying. You just use a different switch at that point. I don't think I need to test with the plate, since the millmax sockets are so tight. Holds the switch in really well. Millmax might be the way to go if you want to go plateless but still hot swap. Like, it's a lot tighter than a normal hot swap socket. At least for those switches. It's like this side, right side. Maybe a tiny bit. Not a lot though, if anything. Bit on this side. This side is great. But there's a tiny tick. Also pressing them a bit. Distribute the loop on the wire. One kinda fixed itself. One as well. Get halfway down. The wire. Yeah, this wire. Like, the spacebar needs some stuff. Not a lot. I think the enter and shift are fine. But the spacebar needs just a tiny bit. But I think I can do that with a syringe. Let's try that. I need to find the balance between how much I want to do. Oh, that was perfect. Okay, yeah, fine. Gonna see after a while, or maybe in the typing test we notice it a bit better. When the board is built, everything's a bit louder, a bit fuller. Gonna notice those differences a bit better. Okay, let's put this away for now. Won't be needing the toothbrush anymore. And Let's start putting the PCB and plate together. Surprising that the switch the millmax socket. Need to be careful when I put them in with the plate. Do not bend any pins because those sockets are super small compared to the normal hot stuff. Plate. Barely. I'm just gonna use an FR4 plate. The gaskets are on the case itself, so nothing on the plate. And I'm using plate foam. I feel like this board could sound fine without plate foam as well. But then there would be nothing in the case, and I feel like at that point it might sound a bit hollow. I'm not entirely sure. And we're gonna try it with foam today. At least with the plate foam. Especially because I already had it built with it and those switches, and it sounded really nice. Enjoyed that sound profile. So we're gonna see how that one goes. Okay. This might be a bit annoying. Let's see. Fill with some corners. Also, to be honest, the foam makes this a lot easier since there's no standoffs. Did that actually? Nope, definitely not. That pin is pretty bent. Pretty good actually. What's up? Yeah. Hello, hello. Gonna look pretty colorful. And still, I feel like moderate. Like the case is black and pink. The keycaps are dark gray and a muted pink. I feel like it could go well together. And in general, this it's really sad because the PCB looks really cool with like the off-white color and the writing on it and everything. Bit sad you will never see it really outside of building it. Try this again. Yep. This time I went in without any problem. Then just do the corners first and then we see how the rest goes. My first time with a solder keyboard that I swapped to hot swap myself. Usually you would put all the switches in and then you need to solder all them in again. But I really didn't feel like rebuilding this just to have to solder it again. Because whenever something ends up not quite as you want it to be, because I don't quite know how this board will sound until we finish. Just, if you then end up not quite liking it, or you want to change something minor, which might make a pretty solid change to the sound profile, you just need to desolder everything. It's another like 4 hours down the drain. Like at times that can be fun. But doing it like 4 times a week, not so much. Not so much. Pretty good that most of those pins are already really straight, since they were sorted before. I say that while bending a pin. But I feel like most of those switches should be not that bad. Okay. If I feel like it, and this finishes really quickly, I might try at least a couple different switches. Since this keyboard might end up being some sort of tester board for me. That makes sense. Like sometimes you just want to try something out, but you're not quite sure. This might be the board where I could just play around with switches. Keycaps. Maybe. But then again, I feel like if I want the boards to be that, I need a board where I have more different foam configurations. Like options at least. And different plates. Since for this keyboard I just have the fiberglass plate. I don't have an aluminum, polycarbonate or anything. I know there's a company that makes POM plates for this, custom laser cut. So that could be an interesting option to try. But I don't know if this was even offered back then with a aluminum board or if it was only FR4. I don't quite remember. It's been like, this is the first custom keyboard that I ever really ordered and built myself. So I don't really remember what kind of build options you had when I ordered it. I don't know if it was just select the color that you like and buy it, or if it had like different options of plates that you could order with it. Most boards nowadays do, not all, that are a bit more expensive. But since I ordered this back in 2019, maybe I ordered even in 2018, it took a while to arrive. I'm not quite sure. I can maybe Google after we finish. But maybe there's an option to buy some different materials of plates for this keyboard. And then this could be my tester keyboard. Besides that, I'm probably buying a Hebe June soon with a colleague together. Save on some shipping costs. That has also potential to be a tester board. But similar reason to this board. You only really have one plate option from Hebe themselves. So again, you can't really play around with the sound a whole lot yourself. You can only play around with things like maybe if you want to use polyfill or motive sound dampening and stuff like that. You can play with the sound dampening of the board a bit. But the plate and configuration itself, not really. Maybe I have to buy one of the overlaps QWERTY keys keyboards, one of the smaller ones. As a test build, because those always have tons and tons of options. You can just buy multiple different plate options and multiple different home configurations and everything. They always offer tons of that. But I definitely want a small keyboard as a tester keyboard. Because imagine having to do this with a really big keyboard. So unplug every single switch. All the keycaps, you have to remove them every time you want to rebuild it. Like for 60 or 65%, like this is a 65% what I'm doing right now. You only have like 67 switches and keycaps, so it's not terrible. But if you have like a TKL, like a 10 keyless, or even a 75%, it's like 10, 20 more, not even more, depending on layout. Definitely a lot of work if you want to do a lot of testing. Fuck. Why is this one not going in? Okay, I guess the pin was just really thick with sawdust though, so I don't want to break anything. I don't really push that hard in. And then I just double check on the back if the pins went through or if they bent. Maybe I can show you. Like you can see some residue of the solder on the switch. The pins themselves have a silver shimmer. There's still solder, like lead on them. So they are a tiny bit bigger than normal switch pins. Which could probably be an issue with normal hot swap as well. But with those millmax sockets, it doesn't seem to be much of a problem. Not like you can break those easily either, since they are throughput soldered, not like normal hot swap sockets which you could push out. Those you cannot push out. I'm not as worried. So those switches I can probably only really use in this keyboard. Since I've ordered those switches before. Not like I would use those switches in a lot of builds anyway. Like I said, they are a bit too heavy for me. So with a solid spring swap, they might still be a good contender for a smooth, clacky switch. Hate spring swapping if your switch is already looped and everything. Tedious. Tedious to begin with. And if a switch is already looped, filmed and everything, stuff just gets in the way. You have a fresh switch with no loop or anything. It's a lot easier to manage. See? So far, the millmax sockets are not as annoying as I thought they would be, to be honest. And they look a lot tighter on tolerances than normal hot swap sockets. I guess those depends. Pleasantly surprised. Though I still don't know if what kind of caps lock we're gonna use. Might be a stepped caps lock angle today. Gives me less misinputs. This way. I think stepped caps lock is the outer one. We'll see. And this bottom row, always to this. Always the thing if your PCB supports multiple layouts, can look a bit messy on the bottom row because of it. See if I can find this one as well. I'm pretty sure I tested the layout before I soldered this. It works. It's one switch less because this keyboard used to be built with just a normal backspace. But now I have built it with a split backspace, so there's no big backspace key here. Seems to be a switch that's more pushed. Am I tripping? Like I know I should need to use one more switch, but they're still the same amount. Okay, I had to push this one in a lot and it's still not in quite fully. Maybe I put that switch somewhere. Like I'm pretty sure. Ah, whatever. Doesn't matter. What's up with this switch? Why is it like this? It goes in that hard, a bit difficult, but it pushes everything else down with it. It doesn't clip in fully. Maybe just like push against the plate from the bottom. It has a flex cut on the plate right below it, so shit. Okay, I think it went in. Yep. Okay, that's what it looks like. The plate itself, built with the switches. You're gonna have a better idea once the keycaps are on there as well. Maybe from this side. You can see there's foam sandwich between. To affect the sound a bit. You can quickly pick up the case and the screws. It's out of reach for me. Bad preparation. Case. And screws. I can show you the case a bit, since it looks really cool. It's a pretty high-end board, or used to be. Just those two together. You can have a general idea. It says refuse to sync. The weight, like a little metal badge here, that you can also remove with a magnet. Back profile. Back profile is also Pretty standard. It's also front profile, not very tall, so that you can type on it really well. This is the back weight. Sorry for my. Really, really nice in my opinion. Like, it's not shiny or anything crazy, but it has a really nice look to it. Good enough. Yeah, you can see the gaskets are here installed. So I can just put this in, put this over, and screw it down. Bigger torques for those screws though. These are pretty beefy. They also gave their own screwdriver with it. I usually just have my iFixit kit next to me, so... I don't really use it. That was a really nice screwdriver. I feel like 6 screws would have been enough. 8 is always quite a lot for a little 65%. But I feel it's super sturdy. Also quite weighty, considering how small the board itself is. Okay. Let's start keycaps. Put those on already. Did I make it dark? I think this will sound up a bit deeper, but definitely I wouldn't say it's gonna be a foggy board. It only has plate foam, no case foam or anything, no PE foam or anything. I'm gonna use GMK sets, which tend to be a bit more clacky. And I feel like those Novelty silks that I used are also not the deepest switch themselves. But it's definitely, it's not clacky, but I feel like it's gonna be a bit more higher pitched. Just down here. I feel like we could use... Do we use some of the off-pink colored accent pieces? What do you guys think? We have like an enter, an escape, and arrows, which we can use as an accent. But I feel like the pinks are not really going well together. Like, it could work, but not. Let me get it a bit higher to the camera. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure about that. Let's leave out the escape and arrows. And maybe we can decide at the end. I hate the old GMK packaging. Definitely didn't remember that this keyboard was so flexible. Press down on it, the gasket performance. Interesting. Yeah. I really don't like the old GMK packaging. Super bulky. Keys always start flying around and it's flipping and everything. The newer packaging feels a lot nicer. It's also a lot smaller. But to be honest, the nicest packaging from keycaps I think has a PBD fans. Yeah, ePBD and KBD fans. By far the nicest. Okay, we need different stuff for here. Put on the other tray for later. Same for the step caps lock. I think we're gonna try some oil kings maybe, at least on a couple keys for the sound. If it's nice on this board or not, since I have a whole bag of oil kings just laying around since forever. And I feel like I want to use them because they are really nice switches, they feel great. But they always felt a bit too muted on most boards I tried them, so it's always like, I like typing on them, but I don't really like listening to them. They're weird. And I had them on my Echo ACR Alice. But the problem with the Alice is that there's weird keycaps and also switches are not really staying into the PCB and plate nicely. The plate is a bit cut too big, the tolerance are not great, so the oil kings were always really loose in it. And it sounded really bad on some key. Also felt bad, obviously. I feel like I wouldn't have this problem here. Actually, you have to check. Keyboard with a split backspace. See what exactly comes here. I think this key and then delete key or something. I just want to make sure they don't mess it up. I can program it in VIA later anyway. Probably have to as well, but I'm pretty sure there's like a standard layout for split backspace. Since this would be my first one. I do want a bit more keyboards with a split backspace though. I feel like 60% look great with one. If you have a 60% with a Windows blocker, Windows key blocker, and split backspace, those look amazing. Or maybe even an HHKB layout, also looks great. Not sure, do the normal. Do I need like slightly big? Slightly big. Other tray. Step caps lock. And need a big control. Big out. Super. Here's another. Is it normal size or is it also big? Another big one. Control, Alt. Doesn't really matter what's in there. Let's go with control. Doesn't really matter, I never used it key anyway. And space. The small one. When are we building a keyboard together? You just have to come over. I usually always have some board I want to rebuild, or I have some kit laying around which I want to build but never got to it. There's always something to be done. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot planned for summer anyway. So why not? Yeah, something. Just trying to cheat. What kind of keys are going on there? Ah, okay. Let's look for those then. This one should go here. It's definitely the wrong height, so. But then again, a relevant key for me. Right. I think we go with a delete and this. Then page up, page down, or something similar. Or print screen. Let's see what we have. This is just a base kit, so there's not a whole lot on here. There with a different thing. There, delete. Yeah. Oh, there's also this one. Never mind, I found it. Ripping this off again. Don't do it. We want this one. Never mind. And then we go just page up, page down here. Page up. This is page down with this. Oh. We have a different page down. Yeah. See if this fits better in the profile of the keycap. Yes, this is the right profile. Very nice. So do we go full black or do we go some accent pieces? Like, we could go Cloud Escape. Yeah, but the thing is, if the accent, I feel like it doesn't really work with the pink from the case. I'm not sure. Like, it does work, but it also kinda doesn't. But I feel like it's nice to have some color breakups in the keycaps. That makes sense. Like, it doesn't work perfectly with the case, but it works well with the keycaps. Just escape. I feel like we could go enter as well. Like, I have an enter. to break it up a bit. And we could go arrows normally. We don't need to use the colored arrows, because when you have like a big chunk of color here, it's not great. Click enter and escape, accents, and the rest normal. Otherwise it's a bit too much for this case. I feel like if you have a plain black case or like a silver or white, it would go well going more colorful with the keys, arrow keys as well. But in this case, it might be a bit much. Put this off again. Oops. Put this off. Okay. That was fast. Let me quickly clean up those keyboards. Since those are definitely staying on this board. Hello, Ellie. No killing allowed, I'm sorry. It's a pacifist stream. By the way, you might like this. This keycap set is actually cat themed. Cat, no. Balls. Yeah, but the painted nate's already coming off quite a lot, so need to redo it. Like that's what it looks like. The same as before. Need to better look here. This build with GMK Pono. Think6.5 or 0.5. I think the colorway actually is called Cute Assassin. If I remember correctly. Which is great. You should steal it. No. This is one of my more expensive keyboards. If you want this, you would have to pay for it. And it's not cheap. Trust. This is probably my third expensive keyboard. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, but I'm not gifting you 700 euro. That's just not happening. Well, yeah, it's not a gift, you're stealing it. Quickly checking. Since this keyboard is configured. It's currently configured with a normal backspace, but how do I change that? I mean, if you want an S keyboard, you unfortunately, well, even though by nowadays standards you don't have to back then you had to spend a lot of money. Nowadays you don't have to spend tons of money. Like for a nice keyboard like this, nowadays you can spend 300 euros and be done with it. Back then it was that expensive. Okay, my problem is, in the software, it still thinks this is one key. Like those two do the same thing at the moment. How do I change that is the question. Oh. I found it. Okay, let's reconfigure it. Oh, shit. There you go. So you can see what I'm doing. This is a delete. This is a page up. This is a backspace. Those keys don't exist. I don't know why they are there. I think. Oh yeah. What key is this? Okay, this is the function key. Good to know. Nice. Maybe in general. Test the keys. Okay. All of it works. What about the layers? Is there something interesting here? I need my layers on the... Let's make a print screen. Okay. Let's see. I'm not very used to typing on a normal layout keyboard. I've been daily driving a split keyboard for a long time. So I might need a couple attempts to type anything decent with this. But let's see. Changing the mic so you guys can actually hear something, and then I turn off the music. Okay. Microphone is now very quiet. My mouse for reference. Let's see. Ooh, the backspace is somewhere else. Let's do that again. Caps lock. Nice, nice, nice. Let me get a wrist rest. doesn't fit fully, but whatever. Oh my god. Oh, okay. I'm not used to split backspace, so every time I mistype anything, it's completely doomed. But besides that, it already sounds interesting. A lot more clacky than I expected. Him again. Yeah, it sounds a lot more clacky than I remembered. Besides that, I really like the Staebies. Like, I barely did anything with them and they sound really nice. I think we could try some different switches on like the home row, like F, G, H, J. Just see how they compare in sound. I think that could be an interesting thing to do. Glass off again. Just to see how they affect the sound profile. Since I do have some switches laying around which are quite nice to type on. Just to play around with it a tiny bit, since we still have, like, I have a lot of time. And I've only been live for like an hour or something, since this was a really quick build. So let's do that. Let's see what I can find. Oil key. Alpacas. Just for fun. More novel key 6, but with different methods. Like those. Similar to the switches I have in there right now. Right now in this keyboard are also novel key 6. But those have a special colorway matching Olivia. The keycap set, which is also on this desk mat, and actually show you Olivia as well. Oh god, it's so heavy. This is Olivia, and the switches are colored after this keycap set. Gonna see what those sound in there as well. God, it's so heavy. I think they sound a bit different to those, so might be interesting to try out. Okay, let's get 4 switches out of all of them. I do have more switches, by the way, but I don't feel like testing all of them. So let's get 4 out of each of those out, and then we can do some somewhat back-to-back comparison. Still takes a while to compare, to take them out and swap things around. But I don't always want to swap scenes and everything. between every switch. Also nice if you do them somewhat back to back. Maybe I can actually remove some. There's one other switch I want to try. By the way, for anybody that doesn't know keyboards before, those are banana split switches. And I feel like they look super fun. Super colorful. The pink, purple, and yellow. Really like how they look. An auto switch, not as modern as some other stuff, but I really like them. Alpacas are from the same company as the banana splits, but they are slightly different. Yeah, they do look tasty. Some switches in general look really tasty. I can show you some after I unpacked all of those. For example, those are alpacas. Gray and pink. Fits this keyboard perfectly, honestly. Unfortunately, you never see them. Maybe you can also saw those. Those are the Agile Moons. Just a classic gray blend. And Oil Kings are just pure black. Yep, keyboards today. At least 4-bit. At least 4-bit. Also take 4 of those. I really like how those look. But I only used those switches in my Novel Key 65. Since they came with it. Like I have the Olivia edition NK65. So those switches are themed after it. I only ever heard them in that keyboard. Which is not a bad board, but the profile is very different. Okay. I think they are called pine cone switches or pine switches. Let me get 4 of those as well. I really like those. From the feeling. Like they have a great switch feel. But their springs start a bit too heavy. Like the switch itself is about as heavy as most other switches. But the spring starts off a lot heavier. Just a straight dark green. We like those as well. Have a keyboard straight after this? Maybe not. Like I have a keyboard where I want to swap the switches out, but I do that just off stream whenever I want. Okay, those switches might be the silliest. Those are called the Zook bubble gums. Look at that packaging. Reminds me like when I was a child. Bubblegum packs. Maybe it's just looks without deceiving me, but it is like it smells like mint in this box. Maybe it's just the looks that make me smell it. But it is quite funny. We can also try those out. Like they also packaged in 2 different boxes. It wasn't directly about the metal keycaps, also about the keyboard itself, since it was a Hall effect. Yeah. I want 2 of the pink and 2 of the turquoise. Look how they look like. Like they have inverted colors. Very cute. Very cute. Like them. Okay, we have 7 different switches, which we can just see how they sound in this board. At least, I'm not changing all the switches. I'm just changing the F, J, H. Those for the home row. Just doing basically this in between them. It's not giving you the perfect sense of how it will sound like, but it's close enough, generally speaking, especially considering how much effort it is to change all keycaps and switches every time you wanna just hear something inside the board. But okay, let's adjust the microphone and everything again. Okay, whenever I'm talking, I'm gonna sound like this now. It's a bit weird. I'm sorry. But that's just how we have to do it. Otherwise you won't hear the keyboard. Okay, let's swap those out. Oh my god. Some of those are really in there. Oof. Okay, let's start with the alpacas. Alpacas into banana splits because they are very similar. Oh my god. Okay, those are the alpacas now. They're usually a bit bright. They definitely sound a bit brighter. Not quite as deep, but in general it's a lighter switch, so it makes sense. Struggling with switches. I just don't want to be too rough and loud because the microphone is very loud. So I don't want to be too rough with anything and peak the mic. And those millmax sockets are also very tight. I might need to use my other keycap puller. Switch puller. Oh my god. Oof. Apologizing in advance for all the weird sounds I'm making. These are the banana splits. They should be pretty similar to the alpacas we just had, but just a tad bit different. They sound deeper than the alpacas, for sure. I kinda like the sound profile in this keyboard. I kinda like the banana splits in here. Let me pick up my other keycap puller. Okay. Hopefully I have a bit more grip with this one. Yep. Definitely better. Okay, those were the two JWK switches. Yeah, let's go with the moons now. But so far, alpacas, not quite my thing in this keyboard. Banana splits definitely sound really nice. Okay, now we have Agile Moon V2 switches. The first long pole out of the switches we tried. And also in general one of my favorite switches. Yep, sounds about how I would expect it. Also really a lot deeper than the others. Like a lot deeper. It also just has a really smooth sound to it, which is why I like the switch. But also the long pole kinda shows that there's no foam in this keyboard really. Like there's a tiny bit of case ping because of it. But I really like those. If anybody doesn't know what kind of keyboard switches they want to try, I can really recommend the Loop Agiles. Really nice. Maybe let's keep it long pole and go for those. The pinecone switches from Looped switches. I think it's their own switch. It's also long pole, like I said before. Quite heavy switch. I think it's full nylon, the housing. So it has like a tiny bit of nylon sound to it, which not everybody likes. And I expected maybe it to be a bit more clacky. Let's see how they play in here. Ooh. Never mind, those sound really nice in here. A lot nicer than the board I have them currently in. Wow. The J especially. Wow. Really, really nice actually. I really like that. Once I've spring swapped those switches, this might be the board they go in next at least. I really, really like that. But at the moment they are just a bit too heavy to type on for me. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's all of the long pole switches. So let's just go with the gauge row and oil kings now. Yep, I've modified this keyboard to be hot swappable, which makes comparisons like this so much easier. Okay. I'm not sure how the oil kings will sound in this. They tend to be... What happened to this switch? Oh. You see this top part here? The switch is filmed, but the film wasn't applied well. Let me open the switch up. Oh. Let me quickly adjust this. Okay. Usually the oil kings sound a bit muted and deep. So I hope they're gonna sound similar to that in here, since so far most of the switches were a bit more clacky, even the deeper ones. Yep, definitely deep. About as deep as some of the others, I would say, but a lot quieter. It's not quite as rough as the prior two switches, because they were long poles. I really think typing on those is really pleasant. Like, you don't really get sick of it. Please. Okay, those were really nice. Let's go with the bubblegum switches now. Like, just because of their colors, they are amazing switches. Like, I don't care. I know what they sound like in another board, but no idea how they sound in here. They are a very light switch, like super easy to press. They have very short travel, so the bottom mode is a bit rough. So yeah, gonna see how those sound in here. Honestly, they don't really sound like much. They're just very standard sound, nothing too special, I think. I think typing with them could sound interesting. Pretty clacky, like higher pitched. I think mainly due to their shorter travel. but I don't think they really fit this kind of keyboard. They don't quite fit it. Okay, let's go with those Olivia themed NK Silks last. I think that might be all switches that I want to try. They sound deeper than the normal silks that I used. Even though they should be a very similar switch, they sound slightly deeper and smoother. Interesting. Very, very interesting. While we are at it, I think I have one more pair of switches which don't sound too bad, but again are a bit too heavy for me, and they are very clacky in every board I tried them so far. Might be interesting in this keyboard because it is already pretty clacky. Those, I think they are themed after Squid Game. They're called Red Jackets. They are factory looped long poles with very nice tolerances. So let's see. They sound pretty similar to the Pine switches, I think. Maybe a tad bit clackier, but I don't think this keyboard really handles long poles too well. Just because the long pole switches make it sound a tiny bit more hollow and pingy. Okay, so we actually compared 9 switches total. Not too shabby. What I want to try actually, the last thing I want to try, is changing the spacebar switch to this. This is a black cherry pie. It's a Franken switch, so it's made out of multiple different switches. It is a smoky JWK bottom housing, cherry top housing, and the stem of a novelty cream. This is how the spacebar sounds at the moment. Actually pretty nice, nothing to complain about. Let's see how it sounds with the black cherry pie. Especially the spring I used in here is a 55-gram long spring. So I don't know how well it can handle the harsher return from the Staebies. Let's see. It's also a long pole switch, by the way. Yeah, the switch is too light. The Staebies are too tight to allow the switch to fully return with such a light spring. Like you don't really hear the top end sound, only bottom out, but nothing on the top out. That's unfortunate. I really like the sound of black cherry pie switches on spacebar. But with those Staebies, you need a heavier spring, I think. Maybe I will make a special one later with a heavier spring for this one. Since I exactly have two more cream switches that I can use. Because the switches that I'm currently in here are slightly heavier. Okay, let's do a couple more typing tests just for fun, and then I think we're done. Sorry for my chair. I hate the word develop. Typing develop is the most annoying word on this entire page. Why is it so often in the text? There it is again. I really need to get used to the backspace being here instead of here. It's very different to usual. Why do I specifically dislike the word develop? Because the way you have to type it. D-E-V-E-O-L-P. It's like a lot of left-hand movement for the start of the word. Okay, that's a good one to end it with. Okay. Normal microphone again. And here I am. Oof. I just love this keyboard, honestly. I like how it looks. I like how it feels. I definitely will swap the switches eventually. I feel like the oil kings were pretty nice. I feel like the banana splits were pretty cool. The 6 switches in the Olivia theme also felt really nice. I think they are slightly lighter than the normal 6 that I have in here. Because my biggest gripe with the ones I have in here right now are a bit too heavy. In my opinion. They are a bit too heavy. Besides that, it is pretty nice. But yeah, oil kings were nice, banana splits for the other 6. I liked all of those. But yeah, I'm pretty happy how it turned out. I'm not entirely sure about the split backspace thing. The first time I've tried it, so obviously I will mistype or misinput, more like. So whenever I need to backspace anything, I instantly go to the delete key or to the build key. Even though I need to go one row down and just hit this. But I'm just too used to going to the top row instead of to the second row. Definitely something I can get used to. Not impossible. It's not too difficult. You just have to remember a couple times until it sets in. Besides that, great keycap set. Love GMK quality, obviously. I might try another keycap set just to hear the sound difference it makes. Whenever I feel like it again. Yeah, I really like the LED here. I think you can, obviously you can change the color, but I feel like the purple fits well with the rest. It also indicates white. You can't really see it in the camera well. And the cable won't allow me to, but the top LED shows white if you have the caps lock on. Always nice. And it's also a metal badge that you can remove and change out. Which is always nice to personalize things, in my opinion. Nice tattoos? Thanks. Like, my right arm is the only thing where I really have tattoos. The rest of my body has nothing. But I'm working on it. We're working on it. Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, I might try a different keycap set just to hear the sound difference. Since GMK is ABS plastic. And I wanted to hear maybe how it sounds like with PPT plastic. Since it makes a difference in sound, for sure. Just gonna see how I end up liking it. But so far this definitely is a success. The main thing why I even rebuilt it was because the stabilizer keys, so enter, spacebar, shift, and before I rebuilt it also the backspace, the stabilizers all sounded really, really bad. I built this keyboard 4 years ago or more, So obviously after a while, stabilizers turn a bit weird. Or you have to adjust them occasionally. Because this keyboard was completely soldered before I changed it, it's really difficult to get to the stabilizers and do anything with them. So now it's rebuilt, hotswappable, stabilizers are Staebies now. They sound amazing. I'm not the greatest fan of the spacebar because the tolerances are so tight. Even with a GMK spacebar, the long pole switches had difficulty on the spacebar. At least the Cherry Pie. So, I might just have to play around with how you push the keycap on, if that fixes anything. Or manually push the stem fully in, or anything like that, I don't know. I'm just gonna try that off stream since it's difficult to show on stream what I'm doing. Wouldn't really do much. But just something I need to check out with the new stabilizer since it's the first time I've been using those. Classic WoW win? Depends. I think yesterday night, I think they released the new phase on Season of Discovery. I'm not quite in the mood yet to really grind that away. I mean, I didn't ghost you on Classic. It's just a lot if you play multiple expansions in multiple groups, multiple times a week. It's hard to really get motivated, especially because Season of Discovery is a version of Warcraft vanilla with some extras, but I already don't enjoy that much. Like vanilla is already one of my least favorites. Season of Discovery made it a bit better because a lot of the new runes and everything are from better expansions, which make classes feel a lot more modern. But maybe it was just because the classes I played in phase 1 were just terrible designed from Blizzard. Like I played Shaman, and Tank Shaman was great, really cool, really cool runes, but the DPS Shaman runes were just terrible. Everything contradicted itself a bit. The synergies you had to play around with to do damage also interacted negatively on the raid, so it was not fun. I hope with this new phase it's gonna be better. I know they implemented some runes which should improve the gameplay of the class a lot, but it depends heavily how Blizzard implemented it. If I'm gonna enjoy it or not. But the biggest problem is the character that I want to play, or might end up wanting to play, is on a server that's closed. Like neither Ellie nor you, Eve, could join that server at the moment, pretty sure. I think it's still locked, like you can't make characters on it. So we would have to play on another server, where I'm playing currently a class which I'm first timing, which wasn't also that amazing. Also, bad choice by me. I chose Shadow Priest, which was also terrible in phase 1. But I'm not sure how it's gonna change in phase 2. I didn't check any of the other glyphs. So maybe it's amazing. I'm just gonna wait a bit. Maybe to mid to end next week. And just see how classes develop. The new... I have hopes that they step by step make it a lot better. Obviously the first phase gonna have mistakes and issues. Just depends how Blizzard works around it. And then there is Wrath, that I enjoy playing a lot. But I'm already playing 4 raids in Classic and 1 raid on Warmate every week, so 5 raids. And all of them are somewhat competitive. So that's not really something I can bring anyone into that never played the game before or doesn't have that much experience. And I don't think I would have fun playing Wrath not competitively. Like, that game for me lives from me being competitive in something. So playing with friends is fun, but I don't think Wrath would be the expansion I would enjoy playing casually. And I don't want to force anyone to grind or spend a lot of hours in that game. Especially since in a couple months, I don't know, 2-3 months, who knows, they're gonna move Classic Wrath into Kata. And then I'm gone anyway. I'm not gonna continue with Kata. So that also feels like something. I don't want to bring people into that just to then stop playing the game once the game moves on to the next expansion. So I feel like Season of Discovery is definitely the best way to go. It just depends on how classes change now with the new phase. Very long answer, I know. But just trying to get across what I'm thinking. But I feel like it has a lot of potential. Especially playing with friends a bit more casually on the side. Yeah, it's still locked. So we would play on Crusader Strike, which is still a great server. It's just not where my main character is with all my gold and all the people I know that could help. So it's more from the ground up, from the start up again. It's not the end of the world, but just something to consider. Oh, hello Yuxi. Been a while. I saw you logged in yesterday just to write kill yourself for Rix or something in guild chat. Very based. But yeah, I think next week, Season of Discovery, I'm gonna check multiple classes out and see how they changed. Brent asked for some warrior macros first time I logged in. Why? How are you guys raiding? Hope it went well. Actually, it went pretty well. Yesterday, I think we finished 20 minutes earlier, even though we still went for rank 1 Putricide, speed kill, and we did TOGC. Like, raid was pretty clean. We wiped a couple of times on Putricide, but we expected that. We tried a new strat, how to play the fight, which people in Warmade don't really do. So it took a while for everybody to adjust, but we lowered the kill by like 30 seconds, which is insane. Especially because the raid was not crazy optimized, it was more or less just normal core people on their random classes, like not tons of mages or anything. You can check it out on Zaha or my stream. I think Zaha highlighted it and posted it on the server. If you want to see his POV, I think he was A-bomb? Yeah, he was A-bomb. Unfortunately, neither me or Bolvarix had great RNG. We both had unlucky mechanics on us, so we couldn't really push for anything. But I think Lycan pushed a really big mage record. And Nomatra, I think, got Demo as well. Yeah, Lycan had a new Deathbringer and a new Putricide, also really good Blood Green. It was a really fun raid yesterday. It was pretty good. I hope next time I'm playing, I can play Enha a bit again to soak some gear. So I can beat the current records there by a couple thousands. And see how far you can take the class in Warmane. Because I don't think it's really optimized yet. But yeah, it's obviously not gonna get close to normal classes. But okay, guys. I think that's all from today. I hope you guys enjoyed. It was not as long as usual. Like 2 hours is pretty short for my normal keyboard streams. Usually takes a bit longer. But since we only had 3 stabilizers to do, they already sounded great. Most of the other stuff was already predetermined by me and redone a bit. It was really smooth today, I would say. I enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the switch testing we did. I usually don't really do that on stream. I just do that on the side whenever I'm bored. Like in the evening. But I think it's a nice thing to do. At least sometimes to give some perspective on how it can sound with different stuff. Sitting here, hope life is going well. I cook some schnitzel here around. Yeah, it's going solid. I hope it's going well for you as well. And enjoy the schnitzel. I also have to cook later today. Not quite sure what yet. Not quite sure what. Well, I'm just gonna see what I have laying around. Okay, gonna close it out now. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. I don't really have anything big planned with keyboards soon. I'm still waiting for my Neo 70 to arrive. I would expect it maybe next month. That one will be probably the next stream I'm gonna do with keyboards. I have another split keyboard which I want to redo a bit. I did split that on the side, but I don't like how it feels. I might stream that, I might just do that on my own. I'm not quite sure yet. It's a pretty small thing. Not nothing big. Probably just will be an hour or so. And besides that, I'm pretty happy with most keyboards I have right now, so nothing needs to be rebuilt or redone or anything. So it's just gonna be a bit quieter for a while. So I get more stuff going again. Well, I'm fed up with what I have. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. And maybe see you today in the evening while I'm writing. Bye bye.